Tensions in the South China Sea have once again reached a dangerous peak as Scarborough Shoal becomes the center of an escalating strategic confrontation between China and the Philippines, amplified by large-scale joint military exercises involving the United States and regional allies under the Balikatan framework. At the heart of the crisis is a small but highly contested maritime feature located off the coast of Luzon, known in the Philippines as Bajo de Masinloc and in China as Huangyan Dao. Though modest in size, the shoal sits at a critical maritime junction that has become symbolic of wider regional competition over sovereignty, access to fisheries, and control of strategic sea lanes. Recent developments show an intensifying cycle of military activity and counteractivity. China has expanded its naval and Coast Guard presence around Scarborough Shoal, deploying patrol vessels, surveillance ships, and floating barriers in an apparent effort to tighten control over access routes by Filipino fishermen. These moves have been widely interpreted as a direct response to expanded multinational military exercises in the region. According to multiple defense and maritime reports, China has carried out repeated combat readiness patrols near the shoal, asserting what it describes as sovereign rights over the waters. Beijing maintains that its operations are designed to safeguard territorial integrity and maintain regional stability while simultaneously rejecting international rulings that challenge its claims. In contrast, the Philippines continues to assert that Scarborough Shoal lies within its exclusive economic zone, citing international maritime law and the 2016 arbitral ruling that invalidated China's expansive 9-line claims. That ruling, issued under the Permanent Court of Arbitration, affirmed traditional fishing rights in the area, but did not resolve sovereignty. Despite the legal outcome, China has consistently refused to recognize the decision. The latest escalation comes amid the Balikatan 2026 military exercises, the largest joint drills ever conducted between the United States and the Philippines. The exercises involve thousands of troops and feature a broad range of operations, including amphibious warfare training, live-fire drills, drone integration, and coastal defense simulations. Additional participation from allied nations such as Japan and Australia has further expanded the scale and strategic significance of the drills. China has repeatedly condemned these exercises, arguing that they destabilize the region and increase the risk of confrontation. Beijing views the expanded presence of U.S.-aligned forces as part of a broader strategy to contain its influence in the Indo-Pacific. Philippine and U.S. officials, however, argue that the exercises are defensive in nature and necessary to uphold freedom of navigation and regional security. Against this backdrop, Scarborough Shoal has become an increasingly volatile flashpoint. Satellite imagery and maritime monitoring reports indicate that Chinese vessels have established enhanced patrol patterns around the area, including the installation of physical barriers near lagoon entrances. These barriers have reportedly restricted access for small fishing boats, many of which belong to Filipino coastal communities that have relied on these waters for generations. Local fishermen have described growing difficulty in accessing traditional fishing grounds. In coastal communities in Zambales and nearby provinces, fishing activities declined significantly during periods of heightened military exercises. Many fishermen report being forced to remain ashore despite favorable weather conditions due to restricted maritime zones and increased patrol activity. One fisherman described the situation simply, stating, "It's very sad because we cannot go fishing. We have no income to support our family." His words reflect a broader humanitarian dimension often overshadowed by the geopolitical rivalry unfolding in the South China Sea for many coastal residents. The dispute is not an abstract territorial argument, but a direct threat to livelihood, food security, and economic survival. As military drills intensify offshore, the visible presence of warships, drones, and surveillance aircraft has transformed the surrounding waters into what observers describe as an increasingly militarized environment. The soundscape of fishing activity has, in some areas, been replaced by the hum of engines and the occasional echo of live-fire exercises. Analysts say the Balikatan exercises are designed not only as training, but also as a strategic deterrent, signaling the readiness of the Philippines and its allies to respond to potential coercive actions in contested waters. The inclusion of advanced systems, including unmanned aerial surveillance platforms and coastal defense missile units, reflects a shift toward modern networked warfare concepts in maritime defense. Strategy: China, meanwhile, has expanded its own operational tempo in response. Its Southern Theater Command has conducted naval and air patrols in the vicinity of Scarborough Shoal, describing them as necessary measures to resolutely safeguard territorial sovereignty. These patrols have been accompanied by China Coast Guard deployments and increased maritime surveillance activity across surrounding waters. Reports from maritime monitoring groups suggest that both sides are now operating in closer proximity than in previous years, increasing the risk of miscalculation or accidental escalation. Even minor vessel encounters carry the potential for diplomatic crises or unintended military confrontation. The strategic importance of Scarborough Shoal lies not only in its location, but also in its rich fishing grounds and proximity to major shipping lanes. Located roughly 200 kilometers west of Luzon, the atoll sits within a broader contested maritime zone that includes multiple overlapping territorial claims by China, the Philippines, and Taiwan. The shoal became a focal point of tension following a prolonged standoff in 2012 when Philippine naval forces attempted to detain Chinese fishing vessels suspected of illegal activity. Since then, control of the area has effectively shifted toward China through sustained Coast Guard presence, though sovereignty remains unresolved under international law. Subsequent years have seen repeated confrontations, including water cannon incidents, vessel blocking maneuvers, and diplomatic protests. In several cases, Filipino fishermen have reported being turned away or subjected to aggressive interception by maritime patrols. Chinese authorities, however, maintain that their forces are enforcing domestic law within their territorial waters. In 2025 and 2026, tensions escalated further following incidents involving collisions between Chinese vessels during high-speed maneuvers near Philippine patrol ships. These episodes highlighted the inherent risks of crowded maritime operations in disputed waters, where multiple state and paramilitary actors operate in close proximity. Despite diplomatic channels remaining open, trust between the parties continues to erode. Recent statements from Philippine officials have reiterated that sovereignty claims must be resolved through international legal mechanisms rather than unilateral declarations. China, in turn, has accused Manila of misrepresenting its position and escalating tensions through foreign military cooperation. As the standoff continues, Scarborough Shoal has become more than a territorial dispute. It has evolved into a symbol of broader strategic competition in the Indo-Pacific. The involvement of external powers, particularly the United States and its allies, has transformed what was once a bilateral dispute into a complex multilateral security challenge. For fishermen caught in the middle, however, the geopolitical stakes translate into immediate economic hardship and uncertainty. Fishing bans during military exercises, restricted access zones, and heightened patrol activity have all contributed to declining livelihoods in coastal communities. While governments frame the situation in terms of sovereignty, deterrence, and regional stability, the human cost continues to grow quietly along the shores of Luzon. As Balikatan exercises conclude and maritime patrols continue, the situation around Scarborough Shoal remains unresolved. Each new deployment, each patrol, and each encounter adds another layer of tension to an already fragile balance. For now, the waters remain contested, not only between states, but between competing visions of order, security, and survival in one of the world's most strategically sensitive maritime regions